Today's video, we're going to talk about white label PPC outsourcing and why it does not work. And there's plenty of outsourcing companies that are trying to offer this. I'm trying to say to PPC companies who pretend they know what they're doing, that, hey, you could just outsource all your stuff to all your client work to us. We'll get you the results. You just have to focus on selling. Ah, yeah, great idea. Except for it's great for everybody except for the client, which gets a big fat turd laid on his head in that situation. Granted, there are some situations where you can outsource part of the PPC. Absolutely. To outsource everything to an outsource partner, dumbest idea ever. I'm going to explain why in this video. I'm Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, a PPC/online advertising agency that guarantees clients results. That is no pay for or management fees until you get a certain guaranteed lift in your profitability of your ads up front or a certain minimum level of profitability with your ads on a new campaign that you're running. We're able to do this because I am the key strategist at the firm and I have 20 years of advertising experience, which should tell you something about the quality of the information that you're getting on this video here today. So with this said, getting into the content, while there are many marketing tasks that can be outsourced, which if you stay to the end of the video, I'm going to tell you about specifically even what we outsource. I will admit we white label some of our services, an ancillary fail-safe type of situation, not hey, we don't know what the hell we're doing, so we're going to tell clients that we do, and then we're going to outsource everything to somebody who does know what they're doing, which effectively at that point, you're completely useless. You have no value add to the market. You're like those drop shippers who want to ship a product of somebody else's and pretend like you have some value to the market. You don't. At least cheap products where you're not interacting with the customer at all over the phone or anything like that to provide actual consulting on whether that product's useful to you or not. There are key things that you can outsource to other companies if you have a PPC company, but it isn't advertising strategy, okay? Advertising is developing a strategy that will work to make and generate you millions of dollars a year in profit in your business is hard enough as is to have to play this telephone game where the information that needs to be conveyed to the person coming out with the advertising strategy then has to be parlayed to another person and then another person. And basically it goes through three people before it actually gets to the person doing the actual work. At least I did. In school, we played that telephone game. You sit in a circle, and then the first person mentions something in the ear of the first person, and then that person has to whisper it in the ear of the next person, and then that person has to whisper it into the ear of the next person. And by the time it gets all the way around the circle, whatever was said has nothing to do with what was actually said originally. It's so funny. So the more layers that this has to go through, the worse off the results are basically going to be. Which is why also I harp on account managers. I know a lot of people watching this might get pissed off watching this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's hard to hire good PPC strategists to the point where if you hire one, he's probably not going to be very good and the results are going to be ho-hum that you're going to offer your clients. So most of the good PPC firms that actually do good results, they're smaller. The owner is the one doing the strategy like we are at our firm. Part of the reason that is, other than the fact it's too easy to just start a new firm. So if you're actually good working for another firm, you'll just start your own and take all the money for yourself. But also these account managers who end up interacting with the client who don't actually do the work, you're playing this game of telephone and it's just one layer, okay? And that's already bad enough. Not only that, but that person doesn't know what is going on, so they don't know what questions to ask. Usually it's a young, pretty girl, so you can't chew them out when you're upset about something, so you end up holding back what you want to say. Ultimately, in that situation, then, the information that needs to get to the person who is actually doing the work, it never actually gets transferred there or it gets transformed accidentally, unintentionally. And when you add this white label nonsense to the mix, now it's going through an account manager, which is going through an account manager at the white label PPC firm, which is going to another person. So there's two people now. Going back to that telephone game that we played when we were a kid, every additional person it goes through, information gets lost. Just know that. The best is just dealing with the person doing the strategy directly. The problem is that it's expensive dealing with somebody who actually knows what they're doing and being able to deal with them directly, because they can only work with so many clients. And that person who really knows what they're doing wants to make 6 figures a year. And I'm not talking 100,000, I'm talking closer to 500,000. If you have a small little operation, you can't afford it, so you're going to get crapped on by a small agency who has that other model where you're talking to a lady who doesn't know what the hell her ass from her head, basically, that then has to transfer information off to somebody else who's also not that good, and there's just no results there ultimately, which is why I tell people all the time on this channel, if you don't have the money to hire a real expert to do your pay-per-click advertising strategy, you hit the books and you do it yourself, because this whole middle ground, hey, I'm going to start a business with almost no money and then I'm going to hire a marketing for $500 a month and get all these results and I'm going to be rich. Oh, great. It's not going to work, and there's tons of firms out there waiting for the new guy coming in, thinking that. They take your money, they use it to find another client, whether you get any results or not, and that's 90% of the market. Why? Because people want to believe it costs $500 a month to get results. They want to believe it. They're going to pay $500 no matter what. I don't care what you say. And they're going to do that. And then they're going to hire somebody, get ripped off. Then they're going to hire another person, get ripped off. Then they're going to hire another person, then get ripped off. And then maybe they'll find out, okay, maybe, what am I doing wrong here? Then they'll realize, it'll dawn on them like, hey, your dream here of somebody who can get great results with advertising campaigns will work money for you to do it instead of just starting their own company doing what you're doing, or do something else, that's the reality. If you're good at ads, you can run your own business. You don't need to settle for a low salary, okay? At least once you get to the level where you actually learn something, which is why most firms employ people that have a couple of years of experience, because once they get to be very experienced, they're either too expensive, they can't bill them out at the rates they need to, or that person just leaves and starts their own firm or starts their own company or whatever. I'm getting a bit off track here, but I'm giving you some inside knowledge of how this stuff works. So if you're in business as a PPC company, there's 2 routes to go, like I was talking about before. You can pretend that you're working, take people's money to then find other clients with it, or you could actually get good results, and then with the results you could, get clients long-term and bank on them paying you long-term to pay for the high cost of the labor that you need and all that. Introducing a white label solution to your PPC firm, all you're going to do is force yourself to fall into category 1, which is there's no results there and you have to constantly replace the clients that you have, because of the inefficiencies in the information transfer itself. They could be even good PPC experts at the outsourcing firm, but if you're literally outsourcing everything to them, the information transfer is not going to take place like it's supposed to. There'll be enough of an information gap to the person doing the work. There's going to be mistakes made, and all it takes is just a tiny little mistake in a campaign, such as not understanding the type of people that are calling, not quite affording the service, so that most of the leads are not converting. For the whole campaign to go into the freaking garbage can or down the toilet, that little piece of information that was necessary to make the campaign successful never gets transferred through the 3 people it needs to get transferred through, or the person that's asking the questions that don't know about PPC, don't know how to ask the right questions to figure that out. I mean, naturally, it's not that hard to ask, okay, is the leads converting? If no, why not? And then transferring that. But, reality is, if you don't know how to get results yourself and you're talking to a client about how to get results, you're not going to know how to ask the right questions. You're just not. Which is why this whole account manager jazz is just stupid, because it's like you're going to go to the doctor at the doctor's office and you're only going to talk to the nurse. You cannot talk to the doctor, and the doctor is ultimately going to only come in and do the work after they've got the information from the nurse. It's so unideal, it's ridiculous. It's to the point, any other professional service out there doesn't operate that way. For some reason in the marketing space, that's the way that it is. And the reason for that is, by the way, is because people are pretending to get results. They don't care if you get results. They want you to pay them. Eventually you'll figure out it doesn't work. And by then they've already found another client to replace you. And that's the business. And now I will preface this as well before I go into further here. If you actually do want to do good work for your client, and you're not in that class, or you're just taking money and then using the client money to find another client who's going to eventually quit, and you need to have a replacement lined up, and you actually want to know how to do it right. I mean, all the information about how to run ads successfully is on this channel for free. Not only that, you could ask me at my firm about anything. I've been doing this for literally 20 years now. You want to know how to do it right? Book some consulting / coaching calls with me. And I'll tell you what you're doing, and you can start to learn to do it the proper way. There's no reason why you can't do it the proper way. And if you do it the proper way and you learn that, it's way more profitable because there's so few firms out there who actually are doing it the proper way. And for that matter, people don't even know where to find a firm to do it proper because there's so few. You will actually have a rare commodity versus a commodity that nobody gives a crap about and that nobody wants. And is predicated on false promises and dreams and everything else, which if you have a good sales team, that can be sold that way, but you can make even more money figuring out how to do it the right way. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com if you would like to talk to me about how to do it successfully. The best way to learn is just to do it though. Have somebody come in, tell you why you're doing it wrong, you fix it. You come meet with that person a month from now. Oh, I did everything. Okay, now what should I do? And then that's how you learn. That's how everybody learns. Or you learn the super hard way, which is you do something, it fails, you read books, you come back, and you can do that. And honestly, if I were to relearn everything I had to learn now, I would just find a coach that's going to teach me how to do it. And anything new that I do that I don't know anything about, I'm hiring a coach because it's so much more efficient to learn from a coach that could just look at your situation. Oh, you're doing that wrong, that wrong, that wrong, that wrong. Do it this way, come back to me in a month. That's the easiest, quickest way to learn. Frankly, I have people though that reach out to me and they ask if they can white label our service. I say no because of what I'm telling you on this video here, which is the information transfer is too inefficient. I will work with your client, partner with you, so when somebody needs results, they can talk to me directly, and I'll make sure you get a so-called kickback, if you will, for referring me into the information loop. But we're going to charge what we normally charge. Just like you are a salesperson for our firm, we're going to give you a 10, 15% commission for everything the client spends with us. I've tried the white label thing and I realize what I'm telling you here, which is it doesn't work. For that matter, the cost of what you need to charge to get it done right, most firms don't know how to charge that. They haven't been offering a good quality service. So then they come to us and want us to offer a cheap service as well. Well, you want good quality with cheap. It's not going to work that way. And they don't know how to sell it for expensive, so they can't afford to white label it with using us anyway. But even if they could afford it, I'm not going to do no white label business because I want the client to get results so I can have them long term, and I ain't going to get that if I can't talk to the client directly. And with that said, one final thing, if you actually want results in plumbing, selling, printing services, we've done 100 plus campaigns before in 100 plus different niches. In the last 10 years running this firm, we can give you the winning ads, campaigns, landing pages, all of it. Copy paste those into your account and get the same results we are. It'd be really stupid to have to relearn everything that we had to learn already to get great results in your niche space if we've already done it. You can pay a one-time fee for all those templates, copy paste them into your account, and you don't have to white label nothing because once you have all that, no advertising experts necessary. You've got it all. And frankly, that's what I would do. Also, if I weren't a PPC expert, I would just stick to one niche because once you have that template, you can resell it a million times, which we've got people doing that type of thing with our templates before actually, whether they're doing it to sell to accountants or plumbers or whatever. But anyway, if you want any of those templates, reach out to me. I can tell you what results we got in your niche market that you're interested in. You can see what you could stand to gain with it. But getting back to the content and topic at hand here, because you usually have to review with the client what type of leads you're producing directly and actively coach the client on how to handle the sales process or handoff, there isn't any results with a purely outsource everything white label firm. My job working with clients, in order to guarantee their success, if you will, if there's success to be had there, that is you're selling something that actually is marketable, I can't polish a turd still at the end of the day, is getting on the phone with them once in a while and listening, okay, how is it going? How do you think it's going on your side if we're generating leads? Oh, the leads aren't closing, or, we're getting these type of calls, which are kind of weird, and just listening and taking that information in, tweaking our strategy, and then coming back a month later, okay, did that get corrected? Oh, no, actually, now we have this new problem, weird enough. Okay, let's figure out how to fix that. And doing that until it's absolutely just running perfect. That's half of the job. Because I know what typically works, but even then, there'll still be some small nuance that's unique to that business that they can't handle certain credit levels of people who are applying. Naturally, their sales process isn't good enough to handle these leads and do well. So we have to talk about that and we have to coach the client. You don't know how many people try to send sales leads to somebody who doesn't know anything about sales, and then it fails. They'll call a person once and then nobody answers the phone, and then they don't try to call back again, and they think that's somehow going to work, which it doesn't. So half of the job is just figuring out what happens after the call comes, / figuring out how to get the calls to be the exact type of calls that they can do well with. If you're saying, okay, well, I'm outsourcing an e-commerce thing. I'm not generating calls. Why can't I white label the service then? Or have someone do the work for me to white label our services. And even with that, if you are selling something for more than like $100 in cost, which is just like a rough cutoff point, it still isn't going to work because so much of the revenue is predicated on phone calls still. You're not going to buy a $500 thing many times without calling and asking questions. And you got to be able to get feedback on the type of calls you're getting still, and that's a big part of the job. There is no just looking at the account, never talking to the client, and getting the results unless you're selling a $50 thing, and then perhaps you can. Then the numbers that show up on the screen will tell you if it's working or not working. That I will admit, in that scenario there, you can make it work. Like out of all the clients that we've ever worked with, that's like 5 to 10% of all the clients that we've dealt with in the past. Now, where we have white labeled part of our services, so i.e. have another firm do what we claim to do at our firm, it will come in when there's a specialty thing that we need. We're an advertising agency. Advertising anymore it's gotten bigger and bigger what you have to know to be able to do it, at least online advertising, because it's a technical field still. Server side conversion tracking. Okay, when that started, we had no clue about it technically. I mean, we had basic client side conversion tracking, but we had to work with an outside firm to do that. Well, there's a special firm that we work with that understands that. And instead of just trying to figure it out all for ourselves, going back to what I was talking about before, we just pay them to do it. But that's the type of thing that even if the client knew that we were outsourcing it, which we do actually tell them in that situation that we're working with an outside partner, they don't care about that. As long as they're going to get the guy that they can talk to that knows what the hell he's doing, and they're not going to be switched out every 18 months with a new guy, which is what really pisses people off about marketing agencies nowadays. They ain't going to care. So it's not so much white labeling everything. It's what parts of what you do is outside your technical capability and just outsource that. I would say most importantly, have somebody that's going to work with that client who actually knows about marketing and strategy, who's going to be doing the high level strategy on the account at the same time. Parts of it that are difficult, outsourcing those to another firm, not the whole thing. Ultimately, the reason why people use account managers as well, instead of having the person who does the strategy talking to the client, is because people that typically the strategists don't know how to talk to clients. Well, in order for the experience and the real good results to be there, you gotta have to have a strategist who knows how to talk to a client still. Sorry, that's just kind of the way that it is. Otherwise, you're gonna have that telephone game inefficiency in your system, and it's so hard to get results when you don't talk to the client. I couldn't do it working with my clients. If I could not which is why I don't do white label service for firms. Even though people ask all the time, I don't do those because I cannot get results there. And I'm not just saying that because I'm only here to help people. I can't get a long-term client not talking to them. Sorry, I can't do it. So I'm just telling you what I've experienced. With that said, you got to learn how to deal with the client. And if you're underpaying people and you constantly switch people out and who's talking with that client, the client's going to get frustrated eventually, and the results are also not good because you have a new person coming in, they don't know what the last guy did, and then now he has to learn everything all over again. You need to pay enough to keep the person that's going to talk with the client there, so they're going to be there for the next 5-10 years talking to the client because you're building a long-term information exchange between the two parties. And the really, really good results come from having years of data built up between each other about leads and how things are working. And this is working, this is not working. The real good results with ads are built up over years. You're building a foundation of knowledge, and you constantly use the new learnings to make your ads more and more efficient over time. And that only is going to come if you work on an account long term, not a team who's going to constantly be switched out in terms of who's working on the project. That is kind of like my rant for the day about white label, PPC. Could it technically work? Yes. Is it likely to work? No. If you want to know how to do PPC right so you don't have to outsource everything and you can talk to the client intelligently, then you learn either you, like I mentioned earlier, you call me up and you do coaching sessions, or you just pay attention to what's on this channel, because I tell you what's working and what is not working from somebody who spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy for our clients, which is rare because most of the other channels that are big on PPC don't work with clients. They don't do any work. They own the firm, they don't do any work, or they have a couple clients, they therefore don't really know much. People are focused on selling courses and all this other, there's just no actual solid advice there. My full-time job is just doing ad testing. I know basically more than anybody else you're gonna find on YouTube. I know because I check around for other quality information myself. I can't find it. I've got to learn this stuff myself. Learn it from me. You subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Also, you want to check out my blog. My blog has step-by-step instructions on how to use the strategies we are using to actually guarantee results for our clients. You should check that out. It's at guaranteedppc.com/blog. And by the way, at any point, if you want free advice, I don't charge anybody anything for questions. As long as you leave them in the comment section, I get back to also within usually 24 hours time, any question. I don't care if you're a competing firm, yes, we may be enemies on the outside, but at least when it comes to this channel, I'm fine with helping a competitor with a one-off question, because you're helping the channel grow just by watching the video. So we also got that as well. Sum everything up here. White label PPC. There's people that specialize in it and they can do certain aspects of it. Tracking maybe, ad creation maybe, but there still has to be a king on top who deals with the client directly. That can't be outsourced specifically. All the rest of it, I will admit, technically can. So you got to have a king on top who translates what the client says and what information that he's getting from the client or she's getting from the client into a strategy. And then once the strategy is in place, they can outsource that to another firm. And that other firm is basically just going to be a stand-in for the staff that they normally would have to do the actual elements of the strategy. Because the way that I set it up at our firm is I do the strategy. I have a whole team of full-time people that we have and that we employ. And when I know I need this structure or this ad, I'm like, oh, we need this structure, we need this ad. The team does it. I could easily have that outsourced to another outsourced agency. It's just, there's really not that much difference between doing the two. Of course, if you're successful, it is a little bit better and more efficient to have your own team, naturally. It wouldn't, in terms of what the client's going to get in terms of results, it's really not going to be that much different at the end of the day. You still got to have somebody, though, that knows what they're doing and could run ads on their own successfully, talking to the client. If you ever expect the client to get a truly good experience and good results that they deserve, and that you could charge top dollar for it, not $500 a month for, but $5,000 a month for. So the money's waiting for you if you just figure out how to find the person who can offer that level of knowledge to the client and work directly with the client like that, like we do at our firm. Not to say we charge $5,000 a month at our entry point, but our average is going to be closer to that $5,000. And because that's what it costs to do it at a proper high level, not let's outsource everything to a whole other agency and they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do. And we're not expecting you to stay long as a client, who cares? Which is what most people are doing in this space. They fool most people that come into the space trying to hire a PPC agency several times before they ever get to us. My perfect client is somebody who's hired 3 or 4 or 5 agencies already and failed. Why? Because they'll finally know by the time they get to me that this stuff isn't easy and it's a process and they're ready to pay proper fees. Otherwise, as a funny note to end this, if they've hired us at a few grand a month and they got results, their first thought is, oh man, I'm a genius. I can hire anybody successfully, and then they'll start to try to figure out how to do it cheaper, and then they'll fail and they'll go off the rail, and everything that we did will be screwed up. I know because they'll a lot of times forget to remove us from their ad account, and I go in there to just take a peek later on, and the whole thing that we did is totally derailed, and it's gone. And everybody has to learn that the hard way, unfortunately. That's just the way that it is. People don't by default want to expect something is going to be expensive. And to their defense, most services, more expensive isn't always automatically better, because you can hire people out of college that can do an accounting job pretty much like they're supposed to. You cannot hire an advertising person out of college who knows about what they're doing about anything. That cannot be learned in a book. Not only that, but once you know it, you're extremely valuable as a person in just the real world. And you're not a replaceable cog in the machine. It's Real people who really know how to get results with ads, they're rare, and either they're charging a ton of money for their time or they're just running their own business. That's the reality. So that said, I'll wrap it up with that.
Remember when I said templates was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.